Sammy Swindell, who earlier set the track record.
I told you earlier that Sammy Swindell in the #1 car smashed the world record in qualifying. Well, that would give him the pole, right, on the outside of the front row? Well, it would in any other kind of motor racing. But apparently the Outlaw officials today have decided to invert the top 6 drivers. And, Sam, you don't look pleased with that.
No, I'm not happy at all, really. We came up here, you know, I didn't really see any rules or anything until we got here. And we went out, and I drew early numbers, so I didn't want to go real quick. You know, so I didn't run as hard as I could have. We should have been a little bit faster if I just ran just flat out around here. The car is going real good, and then we're back here starting in 6th spot. This place is real narrow, and they've cut the laps back to 35 laps, and they're going to run, the yellows are going to count, so we could just have maybe a 6 or 7 lap dash, and I'm going to be starting in 6.
Okay, let's go to Brock Yates with the man who is on the pole, sort of.
Well, Steve, I don't know about Sammy, but I'll show you a guy right here that's kind of happy about this inverted start deal. Brad Doty is sitting on the pole, even though you ran a little bit slower than Sammy, but the way the cards were dealt, couldn't start in a better spot at Syracuse.
Yeah, that's for sure. This is the best spot to start here because it's so big. We qualified about a second less than Sammy did, and that's quite a bit of time. But, you know, starting on the front row, we definitely got the advantage. We're down a little bit on horsepower compared to a lot of the guys, but hopefully we can get out front and just take up all the racetrack we can and win the thing, hopefully.
Well, Brad, we saw you run last year. Got taken out in a spin early in the going and then work your way back. Fantastic drive. I think you could have won it if you hadn't been knocked off early in the going. Let's hope that doesn't happen this year. But it's a narrow old racetrack, and I suppose people can get in your way even though when you're lapping them.
Yeah, that's part of it. I guess they're counting the yellow laps here, and that's definitely going to help us. And I was hoping that it would be good for us is maybe as long as we're still leading the race, about every 10 laps, it's so they'd have a yellow just to keep from getting into lap cars, because like I was talking about the motor, whenever you get to lap traffic, if you got to get out of the throttle and lose your momentum for a lap car, or the guys with the bigger motors could maybe get on by. So, you know, we're just hoping. But last year, you know, we went to the clear of the tail. I think they said there was 40-some cars or something on the racetrack. We come back to 3rd. Car was working exceptionally well, and like I said, we might have been able to win that had we not got spun out. But it's just hard to tell. This place is really, you can't figure it out.
Okay, well, we're going to see how Brad does starting from the pole. Steve?
Okay, thank you, Brock. I'm with the man on the inside of the 2nd row, Keith Kaufman, and you're kind of the man in the middle. You got slower cars in front of you and quicker cars behind you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rat race for the first turn to get in the lead, is what it amounts to.
The first few laps you think might settle this thing?
Well, if you can get to the front and get going good, it might make a whole difference in the race.
And, of course, if there were room to pass, if this was a wider racetrack, if, it would be a different situation.
Right. You know, like I said, if the guy gets to the front early and goes good, he'll probably stay in the front.
Is that what you plan to do, get in the front early?
Well, I'm going to try.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, let's go back to Brian.
Steve, I'm with the winningest sprint car driver in modern history, I guess you could say. Doug Wolfgang, who has won an unprecedented 53 features on the World of Outlaws trail, comes in here just with about as hot a streak as a man could ask for. A super season, Doug. I remember last year here at Syracuse, not such a good time. We weren't too happy, but got to be happier now.
Well, we're winning a lot of races. Anytime you win races and do your job right, you're happy. So the last couple of years, I haven't been able to do the best job I could do, and wasn't all that happy. So that's the way it goes.
Starting 4th outside of the 2nd row, real narrow racetrack at Syracuse. What does it require? Patience, a hard charge at the start, and hope you can get as close to the front as possible, or how do you run this race?
I'm not too big on charging hard at the start, but obviously the way it looks, the guy who can probably get out in front is going to have a better chance than the guy who's going to sit back and run 3rd or 4th, because it's definitely hard to pass. But I would still say the key would be not so much leading the whole race as who gets the right break and comes to the lap traffic at the right time and is able to move around them and not get slowed down to the point where 2 or 3 guys missile by him. So we'll see what happens.
And so will you when we return to the New York State Fairgrounds for the start of the Syracuse Ground Round Super Nationals. Stay with us.
Field is circulating, warming up those big Chevy engines, getting ready for the start here of this 35-lap feature. Steve Evans, you know, you think about a guy getting around this racetrack at 136 miles an hour, as Sammy Swindell did on a flat dirt mile. That used to be a quick time for a mile paved asphalt track with an Indianapolis car like at Phoenix or Milwaukee.
And you know what Sammy told me off camera was that when he found out they were going to invert the start, he was out there kind of sandbagging, really didn't go as fast as he could. He was trying to get up front, not set quick time.
Absolutely.
I wonder how fast he could go. We may find out.
Well, I would imagine that he would be able to circulate this racetrack at over 140 miles an hour if they really worked hard to hook that car up. That is an unbelievable speed for a narrow, beat-up old track like this.
And in race cars that were really never designed for that kind of velocity.
Absolutely. All right, we've got, of course, Brad Doty is sitting on the pole. He didn't have quick time, as we explained, but he will be the man to beat off the line. There's no question that his tactic is going to be to hold on to that lead as long as he possibly can. But let's not forget back there in sixth spot, the man who's the quickest in the place.
And sprint car fans are looking for the name Steve Kenter, the king of the Outlaws. Well, he broke everything he had and went back home to Indiana. We have got a start of the Syracuse Ground Out Super Nationals.
All right, look at that jockeying for position, and coming off the outside is Keith Kaufman to take the lead. A fantastic move by Kaufman, and just moves out. Look at that big lead he's got coming down the back straightaway.
Kaufman, one of the best of the Pennsylvania drivers, representing Port Royal Speedway. Look at Swindell. He's already up to third.
Right in front of him in the blue and yellow number 5 is Randy Wolf, and Brad Doty got himself a bad start, fell back to fourth. So we've got Kaufman leading and Swindell challenging now Wolf for second spot.
Well, the best place to pass, Swindell will tell you, is going into turn number 1, trying to get underneath him. Let's see if Swindell waits out this lap and tries to take Wolf at that point again.
What an aggressive move by both Kaufman and Swindell, who came from 5th and 6th spots to move right up among the leaders. There is Swindell going through turn number 4, smoking his tires coming off that. He is really hooked up, Steve.
We heard Sam say earlier, Brock, how difficult it is to pass, how narrow the corners are here. It'll be interesting to see where he makes his move. If he's patient enough to do it in turn number 1, the ideal spot, or maybe gambles a bit.
Now, Wolf is holding him off. Keith Kaufman has moved out of your screen. He's got himself a substantial lead. You can see maybe about 30 car lengths as Sam tries to get underneath Randy coming off the 4th corner, but he can't quite make it work. Randy's car getting awful wide. Now, Sammy's going to try him on the outside. What a move. Just sailed by Randy Wolf and a big sweep through turn number 1, and Sammy Swindell moves up into the second spot. That car is really working, Steve.
And that pushes Randy Wolf, the 5W car, back in third, where he is now being challenged by Brad Doty and Doug Wolfgang.
The Wolfgang, as we said, is going to be a little more patient, perhaps, than Sammy Swindell, but he is the winningest sprint car driver this season. And he's just been dominant almost everywhere he runs, but right now he's got his hands full trying to get by Brad Doty.
Well, Wolfgang told you, Brock, that he was going to be conservative here and not push in the first few laps. One thing Wolfgang has done this year is win more money than anybody else, and this is one of the reasons why you see him start to make that move on Doty. If any of these drivers will have a tax problem at the end of the year, it's got to be Doug Wolfgang. He has just done incredibly well.
It sure has, as he moved from the Midwest to the Pennsylvania circuit in the famed Weichert car, and that automobile is beautifully set up. They've won all kinds of events this season, but right now, well, Brad Doty's pulled it out a little bit on Doug and is holding off the Wolf, but he too can't catch up on Randy Wolf, who's moved up a little bit in that blue and yellow number 5 sprinter of his to hold on to 3rd place.
And as this trainer car sweeps into turn number 3, right there at the bottom of your screen, you saw Jeff Swindell. He's running in the 6th position. He finished 2nd here a year ago to his older brother, Sam.
So Randy Wolf has a bunch of powerhouse race drivers right behind him as we watch the 2 leaders. That is Kaufman with the red 77 holding on to the lead, but slowly but surely Sam Swindell in that red number 1 sprinter of his is moving up. Look at Swindell work that wheel as he slides through turn number 3.
Now Swindell has not run a full season of sprint car racing. He's had a couple of Indianapolis car rides. He's got a NASCAR Grand National ride coming up. He has only cherry-picked the big money events, and this one will pay him over $20,000 or pay the winner $20,000, whoever it may be.
Well, Swindell right now is slowly really moving in on Keith Kaufman. But Kaufman, one of the most poised drivers in the business. Look at Steve. We've got Swindell almost into the fence. Smoke coming off those tires. I don't know whether he's got engine problems or whether that was a brake locking or what, but it's going to get tense here at Syracuse. Stay with us.
Syracuse, New York. Number 77, Keith Kaufman has it. Number 1, Sammy Swindell, Bartlett, Tennessee, wants it. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce. And look at these two, especially Swindell, smoking that left rear tire in every turn, Brock.
Well, he is some spectacular race driver. Everywhere he goes, he just stands the crowd on their feet because he is so aggressive, so poised, and is just never lets up. Kaufman is now starting to really feel the pressure. He knows that Swindell is right behind him, and he's driving as hard as he can as they come up on lap traffic. This could make a difference, Steve.
Oh, indeed it will. And Keith Kaufman is going to try to use that traffic, and he did it beautifully right there.
He sure does, Steve, as Swindell gets held up a little bit by the yellow super modified of Gary Albritton's. Remember, he ran second in the B main, and there goes Kaufman by Lenny Krautheim, who won the B main. So those two guys falling back a little bit as Kaufman gets through that slower traffic very effectively.
Well, there's no rear view mirrors on a sprint car. If there were, Keith Kaufman would know he's running on a little breathing room between himself and the red number 1 car, Swindell.
Absolutely, and it was really Albritton through no fault of his own that was the difference there. Kaufman got by him going into turn 3. Sammy didn't make it.
And Brock, there's a problem on the backstretch. That is number 24, Craig Rankin, coming to a stop. Doesn't appear to be any damage to the car. Apparently an engine failure. A bad break for Craig Rankin. Equally a bad break for Keith Kaufman, because that's going to bring up the yellow flag and negate that lead that Kaufman had built over Sammy Swindell. Swindell will close right up behind him. It was Sam that was concerned there'd be too many yellows. Well, this one is going to help Swindell, because when he comes back, he'll have his best shot yet in Keith Kaufman. Well, it's going to take a few minutes to form that field up. Let's join Ed Bruce. Ed?
Standing in the control tower at the Moody Mile with Ted Johnson. Ted is the president of the World of Outlaws, and we've talked a good bit before, I guess the first time back in Jacksonville a few years ago. Ted, we got some great racing out here today. The World of Outlaws are here. Some guys who aren't members of the World of Outlaws, how do they stack up against the Outlaws?
Well, there's a few out here that'll stack up fairly well, but on a whole, the World of Outlaws, we hold every track record in the United States on dirt, and there's no question we'll probably finish the top 12 positions.
Do you see any of these guys out here that maybe one day could be stars, future stars in the World of Outlaws circuit?
Oh, definitely. There's a couple of young kids out here that are up in Pennsylvania. There's one that's Craig Keel up here in New York State. I think in a couple more years he'll be right up there with us.
Got to do some recruiting then, don't you?
Well, he's run 8 or 10 shows this year with us, and will run more next year, so he'll get his feet wet and learn what it's all about.
Well, it's a good day for racing. Let's go back and see some more of it.
Thanks, Ed and Ted Johnson. We're still under caution. You know, the most visible feature on these sprinters are those big wings. They are hardly for decoration. They serve a very important function. Earlier, Steve explained how they work.
We've talked about the importance of the wing angle on these sprinters on a high-speed mile track. Well, on Sammy Swindell's car and many of the other top sprinters, you'll notice this hydraulic system here. Okay, Swindell has an adjustable wing. Now, he goes out on the racetrack with a setting he thinks is correct, and he's usually right. But towards the end of the race, the track is getting slippery, the tires are starting to go away. That's when, with the push of this lever, he can increase the angle of the wing, actually trim the car out. If that's too much, he can back it back down again simply by pushing this lever down. So the adjustable wing makes the wing just a little more forgiving. The driver can correct any mistake they might have made as far as the initial setting of it.
Well, Steve, right now, Sammy Swindell and that adjustable wing sit in second place right behind Keith Kaufman. We're going to have a restart here on the